Detective Shakira Montrose stopped the squad car at the foot of the hill where the Dupree family's two-story mansion stood. Even through the tinted glasses of her sunglasses, the Cleveland morning sun seemed too bright for what was happening. Police tape already fenced off the perimeter, and neighbors, despite the early hour, had gathered in small groups, whispering about what had happened. "Detective Montrose?" The young officer Bailey nodded toward her. "Victims on the second floor, in the office. Preliminary gunshot wound to the head. Weapon was found next to the body." "Who found it?" Shakira pulled on latex gloves, walking into a spacious hallway with a marble floor. "The wife, Aziza Dupree. She's in the living room with the psychologist right now." The house breathed luxury paintings in heavy frames, antique furniture, small, expensive knickknacks everywhere. Going up the wide staircase, Shakira noted the numerous pictures on the walls. A happy couple against the Eiffel Tower, on the beach, on a yacht. The two seemed to be everywhere they could be, and always smiling. Typical Instagram life, the detective thought. And now one of them was dead. The study was a horrifying contrast to the rest of the house. Impeccable order had been replaced by chaos. An overturned chair, scattered papers, an overturned whiskey bottle, a dark puddle of alcohol mixed with blood. Leighton Dupree was half lying on the floor, leaning against the wall. The shot had nearly blown half his skull off. .38 caliber, the CSI said, still working. From the preliminary examination, the shot was fired at close range. The powder on the victim's right hand indicates that he pulled the trigger himself. Shakira nodded silently, scrutinizing the room. Something wasn't right here, but she couldn't yet figure out what it was. "When will the results be in?" "Preliminary ones by tonight, but I'd bet on suicide." The detective went down to the living room, where Aziza Dupree sat on a snow-white sofa, a beautiful, dark-skinned woman with perfect features and a face that was now swollen with tears. Her hands shook as she accepted a glass of water from the police psychologist. "Mrs. Dupree," Shakira began softly, taking a seat across from her. "I'm so sorry. I'm Detective Montrose. If you're able, I need to ask you a few questions." Aziza raised her reddened eyes to her and nodded weakly. "Tell me what happened this morning." "Yeah, I woke up around 6, Aziza's voice was hoarse. "Leighton didn't sleep with me. He'd been working late a lot lately and staying in his office. I went to see if he'd fallen asleep in there and—" Her voice trailed off. "I found him, just like that. I called 911 right away. Did you notice anything unusual in your husband's behavior the last few days?" Aziza pressed her lips together as if holding back a sob. "He was, depressed, irritable. I thought it was work. He was having trouble funding a new project. But I never thought he was capable of something like this." Shakira made a note in her notebook. Something about Aziza's reaction seemed rehearsed. "Did your husband have any enemies? Trouble with the law? Debts?" "No, nothing like that. Leighton was a good man. Everybody loved him." "What about family relations? Were you having problems?" Aziza froze for a moment, then shook her head. "We were happy. Sure, we had our occasional disagreements, like all couples, but nothing serious." The detective nodded, making another note. "Did Mr. Dupree have any relatives in town?" "Just his brother Taryn. He's a county judge. They were, close." Shakira noted the slight pause before the word close. "I'll contact him. Have you told him what happened yet?" "No, I wasn't able to." "I understand. Mrs. Dupree, do you have a place to stay for the next few days? The house will be sealed off for investigation." "I can go to a friend's house," Aziza said uncertainly. "Okay, don't leave town, please. I'll have more questions." When the detective stepped out onto the porch, she was met by Bailey. Found the suicide note in his desk drawer. Nothing specific. "I'm sorry I can't live like this anymore." And a signature. "Send it to handwriting forensics." "You don't think it's suicide?" The young officer was surprised. Shakira put on her glasses, looking at the perfect front lawn. "I don't think anything yet, Bailey. I'm just doing my job." 3 years ago, Leighton Dupree stood under a floral archway, watching Aziza in her snow-white wedding dress approach him. Her skin seemed to glow from within, and her smile outshone even the bright July sun. In the front row of guests stood his older brother, Taryn, with a flawless smile on his face and a cold glint in his eyes. "Take care of her, Junior," he said at the reception, patting Leighton on the shoulder. "Women like that are rare." Leighton was too happy at that moment to notice the way his brother's gaze lingered on his young wife, the way he held her hand a little longer than necessary as he congratulated her. The Dupree brothers' relationship had always been complicated. Taryn, 12 years older, had long held a position in society, becoming the youngest judge in the county. Leighton had grown up in the shadow of his successes, the younger one's every accomplishment always compared to the older one's brilliant career. Their parents, successful lawyers, had high hopes for both sons, but the younger could never reach the bar set by Taryn. Instead of law, Leighton chose the construction business. His company specialized in renovating historic buildings, and in the last 5 years had become one of the leading companies in Ohio. He finally had something of his own, something he excelled at without comparison to his brother. And then he met Aziza, a brilliant young prosecutor just beginning her career. She was ambitious, intelligent, and strikingly beautiful. When they met at a charity event, Leighton couldn't believe his luck. Such a woman had caught his eye. Their romance developed rapidly, and 6 months later, they were married. The first 2 years were uneventful. Aziza was promoted. Leighton signed several large contracts. They bought a house in an upscale neighborhood, traveled, made plans for the future. But then something changed. Aziza started staying late at work, often canceled their plans at the last minute. More and more often, she talked about Taryn, what a brilliant lawyer he was, how he helped her with advice, how much respect he commanded in legal circles. At first, Leighton didn't pay much attention to it. His wife was ambitious, and Taryn, as a successful judge, was a role model for her. But over time, the mentions of her brother became intrusive, and Aziza's behavior became suspicious. She began password protecting her cell phone, something she had never done before, answering the phone in another room. Sometimes Leighton would wake up in the night and see her typing messages and quickly locking the screen when he moved. Suspicion grew until it became an obsession. One day, when Aziza was in the shower, he picked up her phone. The device was locked, but notifications were displayed on the screen. A message from Taryn. "Can't wait for tomorrow, same hotel." Something shivered inside Leighton, his brother and his wife. The two people closest to him had betrayed him. He wanted to scream, to smash the phone, to call Taryn immediately. But instead, he put the device down and pretended to be asleep when Aziza returned to the bedroom. The next day, he said he was leaving for a facility in a neighboring town. Instead, he rented a car and followed Aziza. She left the prosecutor's office on her lunch hour and headed for the Ritz-Carlton Hotel downtown. 15 minutes later, Taryn arrived there as well. They didn't get out until 2 hours later. That night, Leighton bought a small camera and installed it in their bedroom, disguised as a charger. He put another one in his home office. A foolish, desperate hope flickered in him. Maybe it's not what he thinks it is. Maybe they were having a business meeting. Maybe they were preparing a surprise for him. 3 days later, all hope crumbled. Looking through the tapes, he saw Aziza talking on the phone in their bedroom, thinking she was alone. "He doesn't suspect anything. Yeah, I miss him too. Taryn, we have to be more careful. He's your brother. I know you never respected him, but he's my husband. No, I can't tonight. He's in a suspicious mood." Tomorrow, at the usual time, Leighton sat in the darkness of his office, scrolling through the tape over and over again. Each word was a knife to the heart. Everything became clear. His brother's enigmatic smiles when he came to visit, Aziza's sudden interest in his career, her frequent references to what a special person Taryn was. He poured himself a whiskey, emptied the glass in one gulp, then poured another. The alcohol didn't dull the pain, only increased the anger. How long had this been going on? Maybe she'd only married him because of her connection to Taryn. Maybe they had been laughing at him all along. When Aziza got home, Leighton was waiting for her in the living room. She walked in, smiling as if nothing had happened, leaned in to kiss him, but froze when she saw the look on his face. "What's wrong?" she asked, and there was genuine concern in her voice. Leighton silently turned on the recording on his laptop. Aziza's face went pale when she heard her own voice, saying Taryn's name. She tried to say something, but he raised his hand, stopping her. "How long ago?" was all he asked. Aziza sank into the chair as if her legs wouldn't hold her. "Leighton, I can explain." How long have you been sleeping with my brother?" His voice sounded surprisingly calm. She lowered her eyes. "A year." Leighton nodded as if he had confirmation of something he already knew. "Do you love him?" "I don't know," Aziza whispered. "It's complicated. He understands me, my career, my ambition." "And I don't?" Leighton grinned bitterly. "I've always supported you, Aziza. Always been there for you. What have I done wrong?" "You didn't do anything wrong." She looked up at him, her eyes full of tears. "It was me. I'm confused. Taryn came into my life at a difficult time. He helped me with an important case when no one believed in me. One thing led to another. He's my brother," Leighton said, as if those words could explain everything. "My older brother. He always got everything he wanted, always the best. And now he's taken you away from me." "Leighton, please." Aziza took a step toward him, but he backed away. "I didn't go anywhere. I'm here. We can fix this. We fix it?" He laughed, a laugh that scared even him. "How do you propose we fix it?" "I'm gonna stop seeing him. I swear. We can start over." Leighton looked at her for a long moment. The woman he loved more than life had betrayed him with his own brother, and now she's offering to start over. "I want to talk to Taryn," he finally said. Aziza turned even paler. "Leighton, don't. It will only make things more difficult." "He's my brother," Leighton repeated. "I have a right to hear it from him." He stood up, walked past a frozen Aziza into his office, and opened the safe. Inside was the gun he'd bought 2 years ago after their neighbors had been robbed. He'd never thought he'd have to use it. Weighing the weapon in his hand, Leighton slipped it behind his belt and threw on his jacket. "Where are you going?" Aziza stood in the office doorway, her eyes widening at the sight of the weapon. "To see my brother," Leighton answered, walking past her. "It's about time we had a man-to-man talk." Shakira Montrose sat in her office with the crime scene photos spread out on her desk. The clock read almost midnight, but sleep wouldn't come. Something about this case kept her awake, some small detail she couldn't quite put her finger on. The phone rang. It was CSI Jackson. "Detective, the ballistics results are in. I think you should take a look at it." 20 minutes later, Shakira was in the lab. Jackson, a thin man with a thick beard, was waiting for her with a folder of documents. "Look." He spread the diagrams on the table. "Assuming Dupree shot himself, the trajectory of the bullet should be like this." His finger drew a line on the diagram. "But the actual trajectory is like this. The angle doesn't match the suicide. Besides, there's something else. There's powder on the victim's arm." "What about it?" "It's too small to be shot at such close range. It's like someone just put his hand on the weapon after the shot." Shakira frowned. "Are you saying this is a murder disguised as a suicide?" "I'm saying it's scientifically unlikely to be suicide. That's your job, detective." After leaving the lab, Shakira dialed Bailey's number. "I need a second interview with Aziza Dupree. Now." By 2 a.m., Aziza was sitting in an interview room at the police station. Without makeup and expensive clothes, she looked younger and more vulnerable. But Shakira noticed that her eyes were wary, studying. "Mrs. Dupree, thank you for coming at this late hour." "I can't sleep anyway," Aziza replied quietly. "I understand. We have new questions about the results of the examination." Shakira put the crime scene photos in front of her. According to the ballistics analysis, the bullet trajectory is inconsistent with suicide. Aziza turned pale, her hands lying on the table visibly trembling. What are you saying?" "I'm saying that your husband probably didn't pull the trigger himself. Do you want to change your statement?" Aziza swallowed, her eyes darting to the door as if looking for a way out. "Yeah, I haven't been completely honest with you," she finally said. "That night, Leighton was out of sorts." "Go on." "He found out." Aziza hesitated. "He found out about my relationship with his brother Taryn. We were having an affair. Leighton discovered this and became enraged. He threatened to kill Taryn and then himself." "And what happened next?" "I tried to calm him down, told him I'd cut off all contact with Taryn, that we could start over. He seemed to calm down a little. He said he needed to think about it, and he went into his office. And then I heard a gunshot." Shakira watched her face carefully. Aziza sounded convincing, but something about her story still didn't add up. "Why didn't you tell me about it right away?" "I was afraid," Aziza whispered. "I was afraid that everyone would think it was me, that I was somehow involved. Besides, it would have ruined Tehran's reputation. He's a respected judge. Mrs. Dupree, withholding information in a murder investigation is a serious crime." "Murder?" Aziza's eyes widened. "You think I don't think anything yet. But the facts suggest it wasn't a suicide. Where was Tehran Dupree the night of your husband's death?" I don't know. At home, I guess? We didn't speak that day." Shakira made a note in her notebook. "You're free to go, Mrs. Dupree, but don't leave town, and be prepared for us to have more questions." As Aziza walked out, Shakira turned to Bailey, who was watching the interrogation through a one-way mirror. "We need to interrogate the brother, and find me Leighton's best friend, this Jamal Everett." Judge Tehran Dupree's office in the Cleveland County Courthouse was the epitome of power and prestige. Massive oak furniture, walls hung with diplomas and certificates, heavy drapes on the high windows. Tehran himself, a tall man with graying temples and a piercing gaze, held himself with the dignity befitting his position. "Detective Montrose," he said, pointing to the chair across from his desk, "to what do I owe the honor?" "I'm investigating your brother's death, Judge Dupree." Tehran's face contorted with pain for a moment. "A terrible tragedy. I still find it hard to believe that Leighton could—" He didn't finish the sentence. "According to the latest reports, it wasn't a suicide." Tehran froze, his gaze sharpening. "What do you mean?" "Ballistics and other evidence suggest someone staged the suicide." "Someone?" Tehran interjected. "Do you have any suspects? The investigation has only just begun, but I need to know where you were the night your brother died." Tehran leaned back in his chair, his face impenetrable again. "I was at home, alone, working on the Summers decision. It's a high-profile case of corruption on the city council." "Can anyone corroborate that?" I'm afraid not. I live alone, Detective." "I see." Shakira paused. "Judge Dupree, Aziza claims that you were having an affair with her, and that Leighton found out about it shortly before he died." Tehran showed no surprise. His face remained calm, only the fingers on the armrests of his chair tensed slightly. "Aziza is under a great deal of stress, Detective. She just lost her husband. Perhaps her words shouldn't be taken literally." "Do you deny having a relationship with your brother's wife?" "Absolutely," Tehran replied firmly. "Aziza is a talented prosecutor, and I helped her in her career. That's all there is to it. I think the emotional turmoil may have distorted her perception of our professional interaction." "Did you speak to your brother the day he died?" "No, we spoke a few days before. We discussed the possibility of a family dinner this weekend." Shakira studied him. Tehran Dupree was a seasoned lawyer used to hiding his emotions in the courtroom. It was almost impossible to tell if he was lying or not. "Thank you for your cooperation, Judge Dupree. If I have any further questions, I'll be in touch." As she rose, Tehran stopped her with a gesture. "Detective, I hope you understand the sensitivity of the situation. Aziza is going through a difficult time. I wouldn't want her words, spoken in a state of shock, to be misinterpreted. I'm just looking for the truth, Judge Dupree, whatever it may be." "Of course you are," he nodded. "And I fully support your efforts. Leighton was my little brother. I want to know what happened as much as you do." Leaving the courthouse, Shakira called the station. "Bailey, check the security footage around Judge Dupree's house. I need to know if he was home the night of the murder." Jamal Everett appeared to be a tall, athletic man in his mid-30s. He fidgeted nervously in his chair in the interview room, adjusting his tie every now and then. "Mr. Everett, how long had you known Leighton Dupree?" Shakira began. High school. We played basketball together. Then we went to college together, then started a business." "You two were close?" "Like brothers." Jamal nodded. "Leighton was my best friend." "When was the last time you saw him?" Jamal lowered his eyes. 2 days before." "What happened?" "We were meeting at the office, discussing a new project." "What did he look like? What kind of mood was he in?" "He was, upset. No, more like pissed off. I've never seen him like that." "Did he say what was bothering him?" Jamal hesitated. "He found out his wife was cheating on him with his brother, showed me some footage from a surveillance camera he'd installed at home. Aziza was on the phone with Tehran. and it was clear from the conversation that they were having an affair. How did he react to this discovery? He was furious, said he'd ruin them both, that Taryn was always jealous of him, always trying to take away what he cared about. Leighton had talked about suicide? Jamal raised his eyebrows in surprise. Suicide? No, of course not. Leighton was angry but not depressed. He was going to fight, not give up. Did he mention that he was going to see his brother? Yeah, he said he was going to have a man-to-man talk with him. I offered to go with him, but he said no, said it was a family matter. Did Leighton have a gun? Yeah, a gun. He bought it a couple years ago after a spate of robberies in the neighborhood, but Leighton wasn't a violent man. I don't think he really intended to hurt anyone. Shakira nodded, making notes. Mr. Everett, were you aware of problems in Leighton and Aziza's relationship before this incident? Not that there were problems. Jamal wondered. Leighton sometimes complained that Aziza was too ambitious, that her career was more important than her family, but it was just a simple marital disagreement, nothing serious. Until this thing with Taryn, he always spoke of her fondly. What about the relationship between the brothers? Jamal wrinkled his nose. Complicated. Taryn had always been the golden boy in the family. Brilliant career, public recognition. Leighton had lived in his shadow. Despite his own successes, he'd always felt like he wasn't good enough compared to his brother. You know, classic sibling rivalry, only heightened by their difference in age and position. Did Taryn ever show any interest in Aziza? Not directly, no. But there was something, strange in the way he looked at her, the way he talked about her. Leighton never noticed it or didn't want to, but I did. Shakira thanked Jamal for the information and let him go. As she left the interrogation room, she ran into Bailey. I got something, Detective. We went over the surveillance footage. Judge Dupree lied. He wasn't home the night of the murder. His car left the garage at 8 p.m. and didn't return until after midnight. Interesting, Shakira muttered. Where was he? We're trying to trace his route through traffic cameras, but there's something else. Tech found hidden cameras in the Dupree house. One in the bedroom, one in the study. They're going through the footage. Oh, great. I want to see everything they find. By morning, Shakira was going through the footage from the cameras Leighton installed. Most of them were banal. Aziza going about her daily business, talking on the phone about work, reading documents. But one tape caught her attention. A few hours before the estimated time of Leighton's death, Aziza stood in their bedroom, talking on the phone in a whisper. He knows, Taryn. He showed me the tapes. No, I don't think he's bluffing. He says he's going to meet with you. I don't know what he's planning, but he's furious. Yes, I'll be home. Of course, the door will be open. No, don't call me again. It's too dangerous. Shakira paused the recording. If the timestamp was to be believed, this conversation had taken place an hour before Leighton's death. Aziza had clearly arranged to meet with Taryn at their house while Leighton was away. Bailey entered the room with coffee and a new folder of documents. Detective, I have an update on Judge Dupree. His car was spotted in a parking lot 2 blocks from his brother's house the night of the murder. He was there. Shakira picked up the folder and started looking through the surveillance photos. One of them clearly showed Taryn getting out of his car and looking around before heading in the direction of Leighton's house. Was Leighton home at the time? Not according to the camera footage at a gas station 3 miles from the house. His car was spotted there around the same time. He was getting gas and buying something at the store. He looked agitated. So Taryn came to Aziza's house when Leighton wasn't home, Shakira said thoughtfully. And about an hour after that, Leighton was found dead. You think the judge killed his brother? I don't know who killed who yet, Bailey, but I'm going to find out. We need a warrant to search Judge Dupree's office and home. It wasn't easy to get a search warrant for the district judge's office, but by the next evening they had it in their hands. Taryn Dupree greeted the police officers with cold courtesy. I realize you're doing your job, detective, he said, as the officers began to look around his house. But I assure you, this is a waste of time. Shakira watched him, noting the tension behind the mask of calm. Perhaps, but we have to check all leads. A search of the house yielded nothing, and the team moved to his office in the courthouse. Taryn sat in the reception area while the officers methodically examined every corner of his office. Detective, one of the officers called out. "I found something in the hiding place behind the bookcase." Shakira walked over to him. In the officer's hands was a gun wrapped in a rag. "38 caliber, he said. So was the murder weapon. Shakira took the gun, examining it. Check the serial number and send it off for ballistics testing. She returned to the waiting room, where Taryn continued to sit with a nonchalant look. "Judge Dupree," she said, showing him the gun in the evidence bag. "Can you explain why you have a weapon identical to the one that killed your brother hidden in your office?" Shakira Montrose stood at the whiteboard in her office, studying the Dupree family's relationship chart. Photographs, arrows, timestamps, anything that could help solve the puzzle of the murder. The gun found in Taryn's office turned out not to be the murder weapon, but the exact same model. Strange coincidence or something more? The door opened, and Bailey walked in with a file folder. "Forensics results, Detective. Judge Dupree's gun has never been used. It's brand new, albeit without a serial number." "Why would a judge keep an unregistered gun in his office?" Shakira said thoughtfully. "Maybe he planned to use it but didn't have time? Or it's a backup." Shakira tapped her finger on Taryn's picture. "What about the phone records?" "Here." Bailey handed her the printouts. There were 5 calls between Taryn and Aziza on the day of the murder. The last one was an hour before Layton's estimated time of death. The call lasted 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Shakira nodded, correlating that information with the camera footage Layton had installed. It was the same conversation where Aziza had said that the door would be open. What about Layton's cell phone? We recovered the deleted files. There were recordings of Aziza's conversations, photos confirming her meetings with Taryn, and one audio recording made the day of the murder. Bailey placed the tablet with the open audio file in front of Shakira. "I think you should hear this." She pressed play. At first, only footsteps and heavy breathing could be heard, then the sound of the door opening and Taryn's voice. "Layton? What are you doing here? I thought we agreed to meet tomorrow." "Change of plans, brother." Layton's voice sounded strained. "I know about you and Aziza. I have proof." A pause. Then Taryn's laughter, dry and harsh. "So? Have you come to demand an explanation? To beat me? Or to ask for your precious wife back?" "I've come to understand why. She's my wife, Taryn. Mine. You are my brother. How could you?" "Because I could." Taryn sounded superior in his voice. "Because she wanted it. Because you've always been weak, Layton. Always settling for less when you could have gotten more." "Did you do that on purpose? To humiliate me?" "Don't be petty. It had nothing to do with you. Aziza is an ambitious woman. She needs someone who can help her career. You were a stepping stone, a convenient husband for an up-and-coming prosecutor. Nothing personal." "She loves me." Taryn's laughter again. "She loves what you can give her. Stability, respectability. But passion, admiration, that's what she gets from me. Face it, Layton, you've always been in my shadow. In high school, in college, in the eyes of our parents. Why should it be any different with women?" Sounds of a struggle. Something fell. "I could kill you right now." Layton's voice sounded hoarse. "But you won't," Taryn replied confidently. "Because you're weak. Always have been." Footsteps, a door slammed. Then silence, punctuated by heavy breathing. Finally, Layton's barely audible voice. "You're wrong, brother. I am not weak, and I will prove it." The recording ended. Shakira looked at Bailey. So Layton had indeed been at Taryn's place before he died. But according to the recording, he wasn't trying to kill him. No, he just wanted to hear the truth. And he heard more than he expected. Shakira tapped her finger on the table. Where was Layton's body found? In his home office. And where was Aziza at the time? According to her, she was at home in the bedroom. Check Layton's security footage again. I need to know what happened in the house after he got home from his brother's. Bailey came back an hour later with more footage. Got it. It's the footage from Layton's office camera. It starts right after he got home. The screen showed Layton entering his office. His movements were abrupt, his face contorted with anger. He sat down at his desk, opened his laptop, then pulled out his phone and apparently emailed himself the audio of the conversation with his brother. A few minutes later, Aziza walked into the office. Where have you been? She asked. At Taryn's, Layton answered without looking up. We had a talk. About what? Anxiety was audible in her voice. About the truth, Aziza. About you using me as a stepping stone in your career. About my brother thinking I'm a weakling. Leighton, whatever he said, shut up! He pounded his fist on the table. I know everything, and I've already made my decision. What decision? Leighton looked up, and there was cold determination in his eyes. I'm leaving you. And before I do, I'm going to tell everyone about your affair with Taryn, about how the district judge slept with his brother's wife, how the prosecutor used her connections to advance her career. You won't do that, Aziza paled. Why? Because I'm weak? That's what my brother thinks. That's what you think. But I will prove you both wrong. That will destroy us both. Aziza took a step toward him. It's too late to think about that now. Leighton grinned bitterly. You both betrayed me. Now pay the price. He turned to his laptop, and that's when Aziza noticed the gun on the edge of the desk. With a quick movement, she grabbed it. Please, Leighton, let's talk calmly. Talking is over. He didn't even turn around. I'm sending this tape to the editorial board of the local paper right now. No! Aziza shouted, and her hand with a gun flashed into the frame. A shot rang out. Leighton turned around slowly, a look of surprise on his face. He raised his hand to his chest where a bloody stain was spreading, then fell to the floor. Aziza stood over him, looking at the gun in her hand in shock. Then she knelt down next to Leighton, checking for a pulse, picked herself up, looking around. Noticed the camera, came closer, studying it. The screen went blank. She found the camera and turned it off, Bailey explained. But the recording was already in Leighton's cloud storage. Shakira nodded slowly. It all adds up now. Aziza shot Leighton when she realized he was going to ruin her career. Then she staged his suicide by putting a gun in his hand. But where's Taryn? Surveillance footage shows him arriving at Leighton's house about a half hour after the shooting. Aziza had called him. She was panicking and didn't know what to do. He came to help her cover her tracks. So they're both guilty. Yes, Aziza of murder, Taryn of accessory after the fact. Shakira's up. Prepare arrest warrants for both of them, and make sure all the evidence is safely preserved. Judge Dupree is a powerful man. He'll have the best lawyers. 2 days later, Shakira sat in the interview room across from Aziza Dupree and her lawyer. Mrs. Dupree, we have video footage of you shooting your husband. We have evidence that you staged a suicide, and we have phone records between you and Taryn Dupree immediately after the murder. The lawyer leaned over to Aziza, whispered something in her ear. She nodded slowly, then raised her eyes to Shakira. I have a confession to make. Her voice sounded tired. I killed Leighton. It wasn't planned. I just panicked. When he said he was going to ruin my career, I saw everything I'd worked for disappear. The gun was lying there. I don't even remember pulling the trigger, and then you faked your suicide. Yeah, I didn't know what to do. I called Taryn. He came over and helped me. Said if it looked like a suicide, no one would dig too deep. Because Leighton had already threatened to publicly expose you both. Shakira nodded. And he had proof of your affair. It was a convenient motive for suicide. Yes, Aziza lowered her head. Taryn offered to write the note. He always had a way of getting out of difficult situations. Tell me about your relationship with Judge Dupree. Aziza looked at her lawyer, who nodded. It started a year ago. I was working on a complicated case. The prosecutor's office was pressuring me for results. Taryn helped me with legal strategy. We started spending a lot of time together. One thing led to another. Was it love? Shakira asked. Aziza grinned bitterly. I thought it was. Now I'm not so sure. Taryn, he has a way of convincing people of what he wants, makes them feel special. But in retrospect, I see that he was just using me. Were you? Yes, Aziza answered honestly. I used his connections, his position. He helped me get important cases, introduced me to the right people, and I gave him something his brother never had before. I was just another trophy in their eternal competition. And Leighton was just a bargaining chip? Aziza's eyes filled with tears. No, I really loved him when we were married, but then, career became more important. Ambition took over. Taryn envisioned everything I wanted to accomplish. And when Leighton found out the truth, I should have known he suspected something. He became distant, silent. And then he showed me the footage from the camera he'd installed in the bedroom. I didn't know about the cameras. It was, humiliating. What happened after you shot him? I panicked. At first I wanted to run, but I knew I wouldn't get far. Then I thought about suicide. I put the gun in his hand, tried to make it look real. Then I called Taryn. He arrived 20 minutes later, helped me organize everything, the note, the position of the body, said if we did it right, no one would ask questions. But I did, Shakira said quietly. Yes, Aziza smiled weakly. You did. In a neighboring interview room, Taryn Dupree held his dignity even in the face of incontrovertible evidence. His attorney, one of the best in the state, sat nearby, listening intently. Judge Dupree, Shakira began, we have a recording of a phone conversation between you and Aziza right after the murder. We have surveillance video showing you entering your brother's house a half hour after his death, and we have Aziza's testimony about how you helped her stage the suicide. Taryn stared at her in silence. Not a muscle in his face quivered. I've always admired your reputation, Judge, Shakira continued. You were known for your integrity, your dedication to the law, and yet you helped cover up your own brother's murder. You have no proof that I knew about the murder when I arrived, Taryn finally said. Aziza called me hysterical, saying Leighton had shot himself. I came to help her. And the first thing you did was write a fake suicide note? I knew my brother was in trouble. Financial problems with the company, depression. The note seemed like a logical conclusion. Don't lie to me, Judge Dupree. Shakira leaned forward. Leighton recorded your conversation that day. We know he threatened to expose your affair with his wife. We know it would have ruined your career, your standing in the community. You had a motive for wanting him dead. Taryn glanced over to his lawyer. He nodded faintly. I didn't want my brother dead, Taryn said slowly. But when Aziza called and told me what had happened, yes, I helped hide the truth. It was cowardly, unforgivable. I gave in to fear. Fear of losing everything you had? Yes. Tell me about your relationship with Aziza. Taryn closed his eyes for a moment. It began as a professional mentorship. She was a talented prosecutor I wanted to help her develop. But then things changed. I saw her not only as a colleague, but as a woman. The woman who was married to your brother. Yeah, he wrinkled his nose. I know how it looks. But there's always been a rivalry between me and my brother. Ever since we were kids. I was the older one, the more successful one. He always wanted to prove he was as good as me. When he married Aziza, Taryn fell silent. You saw another opportunity to prove your superiority? It sounds terrible, but yes, in part. I wanted to show that I could have what was his, prove that I was better. And Aziza was just part of that competition? No, it was more complicated than that. I really admired her, her intelligence, her ambition. She reminded me of me when I was younger. But you used her to hurt your brother. Not consciously, but somewhere in the back of my mind, yes. Shakira leaned back in her chair, studying the man across from her. A brilliant judge, a respected member of society, a man who betrayed his own brother out of pride and a desire to dominate. Did you know she was going to kill him? No. For the first time, Taryn looked truly shocked. I swear I didn't know. When she called, I thought Leighton had really killed himself. It wasn't until I got there and saw the situation. I realized what really happened and decided to help her cover up the murder. Yes, he answered quietly. It was cowardly. It was criminal, Judge Dupree, and now you will have to answer for your actions. The trial of Aziza Dupree and Taryn Dupree had become a sensation in Cleveland. An ambitious prosecutor and a respected judge charged with murder and covering up a crime. A forbidden affair that led to tragedy. The press hyped the story to unbelievable proportions. Aziza pleaded guilty to manslaughter and received 15 years in prison with the possibility of parole in 7. Taryn was found guilty of accessory after the fact and sentenced to 8 years. His judicial career was ruined. Shakira Montrose stood at the window of her office, looking out over the city. The case was over. Justice had been served. But she felt no satisfaction. 3 lives had been ruined because of pride, ambition, and betrayal. Jamal Everett, Leighton's best friend, had taken over his construction company. In memory of his friend, He created a fund to support young architects and builders from disadvantaged neighborhoods. A small spark of goodness bursting from the ashes of tragedy. On Shakira's desk was a picture of the Dupree family, Leighton and Taryn as children, smiling, with their hands on each other's shoulders. Brothers who had once loved each other before rivalry and betrayal destroyed their relationship. Love and hate, Shakira thought. Sometimes there's such a thin line between the two. She closed the Dupree case file and set it on the shelf.